Hello. Welcome to RoboPie. Robotics. Perceptrons. Semantic AI. Conceptual RI.
Okay, now we're going to take a look at how we can access eSpeak from Python. Before we do that, show you a little something I did for this video. I created this web page. eSpeak in Python. Look at that. But more to the point, it contains this little doodad.
eSpeak in Python. eSpeak in Python.
It's a web page with eSpeak WAV file on it. Okay, just in case anybody wants to see how I did that, here's the HTML code. It's very simple. HTML style, and then body brace, background color equals black. Doesn't equal colon. Background dash color colon black. And then you end the curly brace. And then you end the style. And then I put a break in and I centered everything up. And here's the audio controls. Source, src equals wave.wave. And then end audio. And then down here is just a break. And then there's the burning GIF file or whatever you GIF, whatever you call it. And I adjusted the height and the width. And then the end the center and end the HTML. So that's the whole HTML file right there. And that created this web page. I didn't upload that. That's just on this computer. But anyway, that's how you can
eSpeak in Python.
That's how you can put eSpeak sound audio in a web page.
eSpeak in Python.
Okay, enough of that silliness. I'll just close that out. Now we're going to get into the Python here. I'm not the greatest Python instructor or programmer. This is, I'm going to use code-oss, or this is also known as Visual Studio, I guess. But you could do this, I guess you could do this in Genie or Thony or Thony, whatever that other one is that comes with Genie and Thony. They come with thing, but I'm using code-oss. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, here's the first program I'll show you. To begin with, okay, this is a tutorial where we're going to construct the command line. So the first thing we need to do is import subprocess. This is a Python module, and I'm going to import it in as command line, just because I like to do that. And here's how it works. You do command line dot run, and then you pass it whatever instruction you want on the command line. And here I'm just passing it the word clear. And that's the same as typing clear in. I'm down here at the bottom of the screen now. I'm in the terminal window, and I type in the word clear, enter, and it just clears the screen there. So all I do is I have my program clear this screen every time it runs, so I don't just keep getting stuff adding up. So that's all that is. Now we want to define the words to speak and put them in a variable called speech. So speech equals, this is what I want eSpeak to say, or whatever text you want it to say here. And then we need to construct the command line. The command, we're going to call it command, and it's going to be equal to all of this stuff. Now, what we're doing here, we're constructing the eSpeak command line. And we know what we want it to look like. In fact, I print the command here. So let's just go ahead and run this program and see what it does. It prints the command that we constructed up here. Notice that when we do this, we do eSpeak. I'm using, and then you have to have a space before your first parameter. I'm using the -X, which will print out the foamies that it's using. And then I'm using a -V for the voice, and I'm using MB-US1. And then I have to have a space. There's a space right here. I have to have a space after that. And then I need to have a quotation mark. Character string 34. Character 34 is a quotation mark. And then I concatenate that with the speech that we have up here, whatever we told it to say. And then we end it with another quotation mark here, character 34. So you can construct it here, and then you can print it to see if it actually looks the way it's supposed to look. If some of these things, some of these spaces aren't missing here, or if there's get more than one line or something, then you've got something wrong with your construction. So you want to construct the command so that it looks proper. And now, after we have constructed the command and we know what it looks like, we're going to go down here and we're going to run eSpeak. And we can do that with this first command. I'll uncomment this with a control // We'll uncomment that. And this is command line.run. This is the same as subprocess.run. Command line.run. And we're passing it the command that we have just constructed. And we're just telling it shell equals true. And when we do that, let's open this terminal up a little bit. Remember, this program's going to clear everything, and then we're going to get a bunch of new stuff. So I'll run it.
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
This is what we want eSpeak to say. Okay, and notice that I got a whole bunch of junk down here. First, I got my command line printed, because I printed it up here. And then I got these, it printed the foamies, because I asked it to. With the -X, I asked it to print these foamies. And then it gives me all these things from, this is actually coming from the sound system, and I understand that this jack server has something to do with Bluetooth, or so. I don't even use Bluetooth, but anyway, I'm getting all this junk, and I don't want all this junk. So, to get rid of all of this junk, I had to do the next line here. I'm going to uncomment that and comment this original line back out. Okay, we're going to run eSpeak now, but this time we're going to make a new variable called result. Result will catch whatever the command line returns. And then we do equals command line.run. And then our command, which we had constructed up there, shell equals true. We need to have that. And then we're going to have this capture output equals true. And that will capture the output into this variable result, instead of putting it out to the screen. So this is what's going to get rid of all this garbage, is capture output equals true. And then I'm going to use this text equals true right at the end here. What that'll do is allow the line breaks to be decoded into line breaks. So let's run this now. How do you do that? Control, Shift-Alt-T on my computer.
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
Okay, and what it did, notice that all the garbage is gone. It just printed this command from up here, from where we told it to print, but it didn't give us the result. All it did was say it. I'll run it again.
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
It is talking, but now we want to see this result, but we only want, I'm going to go down here and uncomment these two lines out. We're going to print the terminal result. First, I'm going to print foamy results. That's just a word there that I put in. And then we're going to print result.standardout. Right here. This is what's going to give us the result. Run the program.
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
And here's the foamy results. And these are the foamies that make it say, this is what we want eSpeak to say. This is what we want eSpeak to say. These are the foamies. And I got rid of all that other garbage. That was because we used this capture output equals true, and we put it into a variable. Also, notice down here when we printed the variable, we had to use dot standard out. If we take that dot standard out of there and we just print the full result, then we'll get all the garbage back. Control Shift T. Now
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
there, we got all the garbage back. We don't want all that garbage. So to get rid of the garbage, when we print result, we have to do a dot standard out. Okay? And we'll do it again.
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
And now all we get is what we're printing and the result from eSpeak. We're not getting all the other garbage, the errors. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that that's why we're doing it this way. That's why we're using it. That's what the standard out is, and that's what this capture output equals true is. And this text equals true allows it to recognize line returns. Let's try this one more time. We're going to go up here to the command line, and we're going to change this lowercase x to an uppercase X. The only difference we're going to change, and now we're going to run it again. On my computer, it's Shift-Alt-T, but that's because I put that in there.
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
Okay, now, because we used the capital X, we have the foamy results are much more complicated now. It shows us the first word was this, and here it found this in the dictionary. It found is in the dictionary. It found what in the dictionary. This is what it's finding in the dictionary list. It found we in the dictionary. It had to translate want using the rules, the file. It had to translate the word eSpeak using the rules file, and these are all the rules that it used to translate eSpeak into speech. And it found the word to in the dictionary list, and then it had to translate say using these rules. And then after it did all that, it gives you the final list of foamies that it used. So that's what the capital X does. The capital X tells you exactly how it decided what to say, how it decided to turn this text into these foamies. So the capital X gives you the whole explanation, whereas the lowercase x, we'll do that one again, lowercase x
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
just gives you the foamies only. So there, that's the very first program we learned how to run. And all we're doing, we're using Python subprocess to run the command on the command line. And we're getting rid of some errors and just printing out the standard output. So I had to show you this one first so you understand that that's what we're doing in the rest of this. Because we just want it, we don't want it to give us anything except what we want. And so hopefully you got all that down. That's pretty much it there, plus this last line down here. So hopefully you got all that. And we can move on to the next tutorial. The next tutorial is tutorial 2. Okay. Tutorial 2 uses multiple voices. Okay, this is an example of multiple voices. Again, we use the subprocess, and we clear the screen. I'm going to say the same thing here. You can change what it's saying. This is what we want eSpeak to say. Define various voices. Voice 0 is equal to the default 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all these. These first two are eSpeak voices, and these last three are the Umbrella voices that we downloaded. We're going to command, we construct the command the same way, except where we told it a single voice before. Now we're giving it the variable. Voice 0 will be default. And then we run it with all that stuff that we had to do before to get rid of all the errors. And then we can print the standard out if we want. In fact, we may as well do that. I don't know why I have that. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Okay. So, let's see what it does. This will be the default voice, the first one, because we're doing voice 0. Default voice.
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
Okay. Bring this up a little bit higher. And now we're going to do voice 1. This is the EN-US. It doesn't sound much different.
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
Hardly any difference at all. And now we're going to do the first Umbrella voice. This is the female voice.
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
It's supposed to be a female voice. And then 3 is a male voice.
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
And then number 4.
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
So that's how you can change voices by using a variable. Okay, so now we're going to move on to tutorial number 3. Tutorial number 3, we're going to use an array to do exactly the same thing. Start the program off the same way we did before. Make the speech say the same monotonous words we had before. Now here, instead of defining each one directly to a variable, we're going to use an array. Voice equals array. That's what that means right there. Voice equals array. And then we're going to append these same 5 voices to this array. And then when we're going to come down here, we're going to speak all 5 voices. For V in voice, construct a command line. We replace the name of the voice right here with V, because V is going to be the names of these voices as it goes through this. And then it's going to say them each. So let's see how that works. Oh, you have to be up there to do it. Okay, let's start the program.
This is what we want eSpeak to say. This is what we want eSpeak to say.
This is what we want eSpeak to say.
This is what we want eSpeak to say. This is what we want eSpeak to say.
Okay, those don't sound a lot different, but we're going to be modifying these voices dramatically in the next lesson. So we'll probably want to hear how they're changing. So we might want to use this variable. That way we can go through a for loop and see them all. Okay, now we go on to tutorial 4. eSpeak utility class. I think I'm going to skip over that and go straight to eSpeak Pi, which should be the same thing. Okay, this is the same as tutorial 4. Okay, now this eSpeak.py, this is a class. We're going to build a class. And so we still have to import the subprocess. You can call it whatever you want, or you don't even need to name it. You could just use it as subprocess. I always call it command line. But you need subprocess because that's how we access eSpeak. We name the class. I'm going to name the class eSpeak with a capital S. That's I chose to do that. You can name it whatever you want. And we want to initiate the class. We're going to give it an initiation. We're going to give it itself. And we're going to give it a default voice. You can make this whatever you want. And then we're going to set the voice to whatever voice was passed in. It'll be MB-US1 if no voice was passed in. Otherwise, this voice will be whatever voice you passed it when you instantiated eSpeak. You'll see how that works at the other end. Then we can define a method here where it will speak the text. And this one we just have defined the method, and we're naming it say. We're giving it self. We're passing itself to itself. That's so it can use this variable here. And we're going to pass it in some speech as a text. And then we're going to define the line, command eSpeak space dash V space concatenated with self voice, this variable right here, we're going to, whatever voice we had passed it in. And then we need a space after that. And then we need the, what do you call that? Quotation mark. And then the speech that we passed in here, we're going to put that in there. And then another quotation mark here. And then we execute the command the same way we did before. And that's all we need to do here because we're just going to say it. That's what this routine does, or this method. Next, we're going to print the foamies using the -x or -x. And the Q down here means quiet, no speaking. That's what this Q down here means. And even though we're not speaking it, we still need to assign a voice because the dictionary is referenced through the voice. So this method is called foamies. It gets passed itself, so we can use that self.voice variable. We will pass it a something to say whenever we call it. And we're going to pass it phone. Phone is either going to be a large X, a capital X, or a lowercase x. That's all that phone is going to be. Notice that it's right here, being used right here in the command line. When we construct the command, we have eSpeak space, dash, and no space, and phone. So that dash right there is going to be the dash before either a capital X or a lowercase x. Phone is just going to be an uppercase or a lowercase x, whichever one we send it. And then if we have another space and a dash Q for quiet, don't speak. Another space, dash V for the voice. Another space, the name of the voice, which we had already sent in when we instantiated the class. And then the rest of it's the same as before. The character string and the quotation marks with the speech. So that's for foamies. That's a method we can use if we want to see the foamies. Next, we're going to make another method here to define a wave file. Not to define it. This is defining a method here called wave file. And again, we use self because we need to be able to get this self voice. We're going to use speech, and we're going to have to pass it a file name. And the command equals eSpeak space W-W to write a file, space, and then the file name, whatever file name we had passed it. That file name has to end in WAV, wave, a wave file. And then we do the voice and the name of the voice and everything like before. The command line does the same thing as before. I forgot to mention here in the foamies method, after we do all this up above, we also need to equate the result, get the result from the command line, and return the result dot standard out. And that's because we're printing the foamies from this method. We want to get that foamies back. Now, if you're not totally confused and blown out from all that, if you wanted to, you could add another line here for the dash F. You remember the dash F from the first video is to write a file. And you could have it, you could have a method for writing files. I didn't do that, but you could. I'll leave that up to you to create your own. You can practically pretty much copy this one down and then just change that to an F. I think that might work, except no, you'd have to return the output. I don't remember. You'd have to figure that one out for yourself. If you want to add the dash F, you can figure that out. I'm sure you figured that out. If you followed this much, you can figure that out. So, there we go. Now, this is just a, you can't run this. This is just a class. It's not a runnable program. Next, we need main. I'm going to put it over here. Now, main is going to call eSpeak. Notice, too, we named the class eSpeak, and we also saved it as eSpeak.py. So here, we're going to import subprocess like before. We're going to clear the screen, and now we're going to import the class that we had just created, eSpeak, from eSpeak, import eSpeak. So it's going from this file, it's going to import the class eSpeak. And then we choose from various voices. We could actually use the array here if we wanted to. I just defined 3 voices here. And then we instantiate the class. I'm going to use ES to instantiate the class. And it equals eSpeak. And you have to pass it in a voice. I'm passing in Alicia 1 here. I don't remember where I made that, but let's see if that works. And now, okay, so that's the voice it's going to be using, Alicia 1. And here, the speech, you have to define what you want it to say. So we're going to here I'm saying, hello, my name is Alicia. I'm the customized voice of RobotPie's robot. Let me shut this off. Then you call the method that says the speech. That's easy enough. es.saySpeech. Then we call the method that prints the X foamies, es.foamies speech, but then we have to pass it an X. We have to pass it the phone. Remember, you either pass it a capital X or a lowercase x. And then we call the method speech, the file names of speech wave. Again, I'm not going to call that one right now. Let's just remark that out. Okay, so all we're going to do, we're going to instantiate the class with voice number 3. We're going to tell it to say this. We're going to call the speech, we're going to call say, which will speak it. And we're going to call the foamies to list just the foamies. So let's see how that runs.
Hello, my name is Alicia. I'm the customized voice of RobotPie's robot.
Ha! I got an error here. Oh, name X is not defined. I wonder why. Foamies. Oh, you have to define it up. I'll do it this way. I see what happened. I tried to just pass it an X. I might be able to pass it as text. Let's see if that'll work. I think it will.
Hello, my name is Alicia. I'm the customized voice of RoboPie's robot.
Yeah, that had to be passed in as text. Oh, it didn't print it. Oh, the reason it didn't print it is because I didn't tell it to print it. Over here in the class, it doesn't print the foamies, it returns them. It returns them. So back over here at main, if we want to print that, we need to get the result. You can actually call this whatever you want. And then we're going to print. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Print result. And we don't need to use the dot standard out here because it was already done in the class. Control T.
Hello, my name is Alicia. I'm the customized voice of RoboPie's robot.
And there, it did everything. Now notice everywhere there was a comma, it treats each one of these as a different phrase. So first it does hello, and then it does my name is Alicia, and that's this part. And then after that comma, it does I am the customized voice of RoboPie's robot. And that's what all this is. These are the foamies that it used for that sentence. Let me see now. I guess that's enough for right this minute. In fact, that might be enough for this whole stupid video. I think, oh, we were going to do, we don't need to do the file name. You saw how that worked. Down here, if you call a file name, if you undid this, speech wave, it would simply print that speech wave out. And it will do it in the directory where you're running this program. So I think I might already have speech wave. I already have a speech wave in there, but let's print and let's make a new one.
Hello, my name is Alicia. I'm the customized voice of RoboPie's robot.
Okay, now it should have done that speech file. And if we go to that directory that's in eSpeak Python, let me see if I can find that directory. I think it's in CodeOS, eSpeak Python, and here it is.
Hello, my name is Alicia. I'm the customized voice of RoboPie's robot.
Okay, so hopefully this wasn't too confusing of a video. I know I didn't take the time I should have to really go over this correctly, but if you wanted to, you could add, should I get brave enough and try it? Let's just copy this whole thing and do it here. Paste. Reads. Okay. I'm going to do this over again. Okay. Read a text file. Okay. We're going to call this, let's just call it text file. Oh, you're in lowercase. Text file. We need to have the voice name. We don't need any speech here. We will need a file name. So we're going to have a command. We're going to have -F for reading a file and the file name to read. I think we still need to give it a voice. And we're not going to need to give it the speech. So we can get rid of everything after the voice. I think that will work. Let's see what we're doing next. Command line run. There's nothing to return. We have to have a file name. Okay, hopefully this will work. I'm going to save that. There's nothing to run here because it seemed it's compiled with no errors. There's nothing to run here because this is the class. This is the eSpeak class. We can go back over to main and we can call that. I'm going to not make the speech file. Put that out. And I don't need to give it any speech. I don't need to call this one or this one. I'm going to put these out. And now, all we want to do is get it to speak a text file. So we had to call it first and instantiate a voice for it to use. And now we're going to say enter, dot, text file. Right there it is. And what do we need to pass to it? A file name. We're going to pass text dot text. Boy, that's simple. That's all we need to do. Only before we do it, we have to have a text file in this directory where we're running this program. Let's go back over to that directory again. This was the directory that we're running the program in. New file, text.text. Okay. Where does it go? Here it is. Text.text. Okay. This is the text file that our new method should be reading. Okay. File save. Okay, we have this text file. Close out of there. Close the text file. And now it should run. Text file is not defined. Name text. Oh, you have to put this in quotes. I don't know what's wrong with me anymore. You have to put the name of the text file in quotes.
This is the text file that our new method should be reading.
That's a terrible voice. Let's try a different voice. We're going to try voice number 1. Okay, I'm passing voice number 1 when I instantiate the class. So now it'll use that voice.
This is the text file that our new method should be reading.
Okay, and that goes a lot faster. And we can't change the speed here. We have to change the speed in the voice files. We're going to do that later. Okay, this was like one of the worst videos I've ever made in my life. Just in case you're interested, you can always do this too. File name equals text dot text. And then in here, instead of passing it the actual file name, you can just pass file name. Okay, that'll work.
This is the text file that our new method should be reading.
This is the text file that eSpeak should be reading. Okay, we need to work on these voices. Aren't very good. What was voice 2?
This is the text file that our new method should be reading.
Boy, they're terrible. I'll go back to Alicia 3. Voice number 3.
This is the text file that our new method should be reading.
Okay, it's not very good. These voices aren't very good. We'll get into that in the next lecture. Anyway, if you aren't confused enough by now, I don't think I could get you any more confused. So may as well end it here. So this is how we can do it. You can create this class with all the files you wanna, with all the methods you want to use. And then when you write your program, you can just call those methods. So that's where we're at. And let's move on to the next video. The next video is going to be about how to modify voices. I just wanted to do this Python first because after we modify the voices, I'd rather run them from Python than from the command line. So, see you there.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. And if you can help, please support the channel. Thank you.